This is a brief review of technology and informatics. Our learning objective is to identify ways that technology and informatics impact nursing and healthcare. Technology is the branch of knowledge that uses machinery, tools, materials, and all the processes to help solve human problems. Informatics then is the science of processing data for storage and retrieval. It's not just the components or the process of gathering data and storing data. The intent is that the data will be able to be gathered or retrieved back and used and applied for a specific purpose. The data has to be managed and protected. Health informatics is also known as clinical informatics. So now we're talking about the practical discipline that uses those computer structures and algorithms and processes to improve the way that we communicate, the way that we utilize, the way that we understand and manage medical information. It's a means to store, analyze, and disseminate the information through the communication technology. Go ahead and pause this video and match the terms. And pause the video and take a look at the answers. And one more time, pause the video and match the terms. Pause the video and take a look at the answers. For a robust clinical or health informatics system, obviously we have to have robust hardware and software platforms in place. The hardware has to be able to support the anticipated amount of data that's going to be managed, and the software systems also have to be up to date and carry the proper security. Standardized information systems is so important. Speaking from experience in my military career, I've known that as we've taken on different software platforms, that one of the major snags has been is that not all of the systems communicate with each other, and this tends to snag up the flow of information and information retrieval as a whole. Policies have to govern expected outcomes and make sure that there's proper procedures and securities in place. Privacy and security is a shared responsibility for all users as well as responsibility of those that upkeep the systems. There should be informatics workforce. Those are going to be the subject matter experts or the SMEs when it comes to the platform itself. They'll address things from the design of the software platforms to working with end users to make sure that the platforms that are in place are helping to serve the need. And then finally, peopleware, which is the human role in an IT system. It's the human talent or the skills and the training that's required to be using a software program. Peopleware and organization skills can refer to people such as computer engineers, website designers, database administrators. It can also refer to team and group dynamics and other organizational factors. Clinical information systems, it's a computer system that collects, stores, and manages patient data and other clinical information in order to support healthcare delivery. It can be a single site or across an entire healthcare system. The components include the electronic health record, repositories for that clinical data, the programs that help support the decision making, and a multitude of handheld devices. So the clinical information system is gathering and storing and managing information that's collected from a multitude of different types of equipment and caretaker input points. An information system, it's an interconnected set of components that's used to gather, collect, store, and process, as well as transmit data. So, standardization of that information system is critical to make sure that the data can be communicated in a manner that can be utilized. So, standardization is very important for cost containment and efficiency. Standardization will also ensure that there is standardized terminology. Expected rules of use are included or codified in that terminology. Standardization will also enable classification of data and language, as well as nomenclature. Imagine if Hospital A, that was part of the same information system as Hospital B, managed and communicated certain patient criteria differently than the other hospital or the receiving hospital B. It could get quite confusing. So this is a difficult concept to understand because in healthcare we tend to learn to address and recognize certain things. We use a similar language. So our computer systems, our information systems have to facilitate that. In fact, they should be created and updated and upkept so that the systems demand standardization. National policies and standards that govern how technology is applied and used can come from a variety of sources. These can include accreditation agencies such as the Joint Commission. There are policies and standards such as when medical research, healthcare research is underway. Those rules and regs come from institutional review boards. Also, the Privacy Act of 1974, which we'll talk about here in just a second. Also, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid are another source of national policies and standards. Meaningful use is outlining specifically how clinical patient data should be exchanged between providers and insurers and in between providers and patients. Of course, it also includes provider to provider. Certain standards are defined for certification, and clinical healthcare systems using information systems must have practices in place to minimize or reduce any barriers for information exchange. When you all are in your clinical setting, pay close attention to how information is conveyed when the patients transfer from within the hospital from one unit to the other, but also specifically when the patients are being discharged to another facility or if a patient is being admitted from another agency outside of the hospital. How is that information transmitted, or is it sent in hard copy, via phone, fax, or a combination of all three? The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996, or HIPAA, are laws and regulations that specifically address patient privacy and consent for use of identifiable personal health information. Specifically, it has three rules to protect that patient health information. First, the privacy rule, then security rule, and also the breach notification rule. As mentioned before, the human talent and the organization skills are the key components to make sure that this health information technology is successfully employed. In order to make this work, the system has to promote productivity. If we have a system in place and it's making things work sluggishly and things are not improving, that's a problem. It's critical to understand that as new systems deploy, there's going to be an expectation that there will be a learning curve. But after that initial period, if the systems are not allowing things to function expediently and it starts to negatively impact productivity, then some work needs to be done. The systems should promote teamwork. We need to have good group dynamics in place. These systems require good project management. We have to have a team in place that has ownership of the hardware and the software and the development and the ongoing um, improvements or modifications when needed and appropriate. The organization factors will include so many different things from leadership decisions, making sure that the budget will support needed repairs and security systems have to be in place. There has to be support for the end users. The human interface design, it has to be user friendly. Imagine, if you will, trying to get familiar with a new electronic health record system and it's not user friendly and the screens and the pages contain so much information that it's difficult to tease out what you actually need to care for your patient. The human machine interaction also has to facilitate not only the clinician being able to perform real-time care and documentation of that care. For example, administration of medications, there's so much going on with that process. The interface includes when you're retrieving the medications from the Pyxis, you're communicating with the system and making sure that you're getting the right medication for the right patient in response to provider orders. Then at the bedside, again, you're performing those steps again, and this time you're taking a handheld scanner and confirming that it's the right patient. Those systems also help confirm that medication safety is supported by making sure that we're giving the right medication at the right time. That interaction should be smooth. Again, if something was sluggish and not user-friendly, it would really impede on that process. Is it necessary to have theoretical links to healthcare informatics? Theory is a set of analytical principles that will help structure our observations, that will help us understand and explain a phenomenon. We do need theories to help us make health information systems better, to make them more usable, more accurate, more clinically and cost effective. And also, we need them to make sure that we sustain an evidence and scientific basis for our discipline. These theories will come from a variety of different disciplines and areas, from information science, computer science, cognitive science, organizational science, and nursing science. An example of where some of the theoretical sources might intersect would be information, computer, and nursing science. And when a system undergoes some sort of an update to try to help make the decision rationally whether or not a full evaluation of a clinical system is needed. So health information and technology help us really provide powerful tools and processes for advancing healthcare practices. The three major domains of health informatics are clinical informatics, which further branches out into the clinical health informatics, and then also clinical research informatics. Translational informatics is studying and applying existing data to help us bridge new ways to improve diagnoses, staging, prognosis, and even treatments of disease. Health informatics includes a variety of communication and information systems which apply to public health related professions. It can include anything from hospital care, public health professionals, and even nursing in the clinical environment. This area tackles disease treatment and prevention. It also looks at the role of government agencies in public health. To reiterate, the two subdomains of clinical informatics are clinical healthcare informatics, which further divides into nursing informatics and consumer health informatics. And then the other subdomain is clinical research informatics. Translational bioinformatics is the ability to take the volumes of biomedical data so that it becomes predictive, preventative, and participatory health. The information can then be disseminated to all the stakeholders, which not only includes the scientists, but also clinicians and patients. In public health informatics, now we're applying that information and technology to public health science for improvement of health in populations. So think about in the height of the COVID pandemic, how all of that information was being handled. Now, the process was imperfect, but for the most part, the data that was trickling in, it was able to be managed and disseminated back out to the public. Here in San Antonio, it trickled down from all the general hospitals here, all the hospital systems were sending information to a central point, and the updates were being disseminated to the general public by the mayor in his daily briefings. Health informatics is a discipline where health data is stored, analyzed, and disseminated. The data in technology systems have to be organized, stored securely. They have to be able to be retrieved, and they have to be able to be shared. I like this diagram because it shows nursing informatics as the intersection of the three disciplines and the theoretical frameworks that are important to support nursing informatics. Pause this video and take a second to review all the interrelated concepts with technology and informatics. Exemplars or models of components of clinical information systems include computerized nursing documentation, the barcode medication administration setup, computerized acuity systems, clinical decision support systems such as MEWS, MEWS, and the electronic health record as a whole. Healthcare informatics is the ability to use data and information technology to meet multiple goals in healthcare. This includes improving clinical outcomes, lowering cost of care, and improving experiences for patients and also for providers, and to better provide care in a more cost-effective manner.